After he leads us outside, it takes about an hour and a half to reach the mansion when Rose are currently still busy preparing our feast. Given that we still needed to wait quite a bit until the cooking was done, Hardwick pulled a deck of cards out of his backpack and we all sat ourselves down at one of the picnic tables in the mansion's yard to play a game that Hardwick learned during his time spent in dwarven taverns. Apparently, one of the original rules of the game was to take a player was the that a player needed to take a sip of dwarven ale every time they lost a hand, but we decided to scrap this rule because we don't want to get drunk before the feast ever even began. The game involved a lot of bluffing, so it was no surprise that Layla was the one who came out on top, given that she could read auras to tell if someone was lying. Since I was the one she could get a read on the easiest because of my spiky aura, I eventually got tired of losing every single match. I decided to take a break and read my notebook some more, in the hopes of finding more loopholes that it might be using. Hey Darren, I say after reading through the notebook for some time. Remember that one time Aiden paralyzed every one of you right before you teleported us in front of Thalius? What? Darren says that he is trying to focus on his cards while listening to me. Oh yeah, I remember. What about it? I don't remember that. When did that happen? Oh right, I do remember that actually. Yeah, when they were about to choke out Rose or one of the other people. I don't remember who he was choking out, but he was choking someone out. How many spells do you have that protect you against paralysis? I say. Just one, Darren says. And the shield does not protect against paralysis, so it's not protection overload. Okay, I say. Is anyone else using protection against paralysis? Yes, Kate says. I use the spell described in the latest Advanced Theory of Magic book by Azarius. Alright, I say. And you, Darren, which protection are you using? The golden one. Darren says. The one that makes a spinning effect with sparkles when you cast it. Oh right, he never studied the theory. He just knows the practical usage of it. That is hilarious. I say, okay, so you mean the advanced version from the standard white mage spellbook. And Hardwick, I assume that you're relying on your partial resistance that comes from being a giant in order to defend yourself from such spells. Yeah, Hardwick says, but I got paralyzed completely, just like Kate and Darren, despite my resistances. I say, well, do you guys know what these three defenses of yours have in common? What? Absolutely nothing. I say as I close my notebook, which means that Aiden was not using a loophole this time around. In fact, I don't think he was using paralysis at all. I just think he must have been using a completely different type of spell, which has the same effect. Remember that time when Kate's friend left us unconscious on the ground? She didn't use a sleep spell to do it. She used electricity. I'm suspecting that Aiden used a similar method to temporarily paralyze you. Didn't you all feel a shock right before you fell to the ground? I'm pretty sure you must have also felt a few other electric shocks afterwards, which were meant to keep you paralyzed for a longer period of time. Come to think of it, yeah, Darren says, I did feel some electric shocks, but they didn't feel much different from the feeling you get from a normal paralysis, so I didn't really notice the difference at the time. But does that mean Aiden can use electricity as an element like Kate's friend? I doubt it, I say. The spell that he used seems to have a certain rules and limitation, which would not have been the case if he could have used electricity freely as an element. The electric spell that he used to paralyze you felt extremely similar to a spell that I had access to back when I had my stat device powered up, so it's likely the same one. I don't remember every single detail about it, but it was one of those spells that you could only cast once a day, and I know for sure that one major drawback of the spell was the fact that the area of effect was extremely small. I mean, you could pretty much just roll over to the side and the following electrical currents would not target you anymore. The only reason why it worked against you was because you three happened to be standing very close together, and because you didn't know what kind of spell you were up against. If you knew how it worked, then you could have just gotten out of the way at the exact moment before a new electrical current hits you, since the effect of the paralysis wears off for a bit right before each new shock. Yeah, I very much doubt that I could have done that, Darren says, because I was trying to break free of the spell's effect the whole time and it didn't work. That's because the spell shocks you at faster intervals if it sees that you're trying to break free, I say. It doesn't work that way. You need to be relaxed to only try to escape at the very last second. Of course, you can't know how often it will shock you until you let yourself get shocked a few times, before counting the number of seconds for each interval. The intervals will not always be of the same length, but there will surely be a pattern you can figure out. That is very smart, I gotta say. That is very smart. Once you're sure that you got the count right, you wait for the last moment and only then you try to escape. Obviously, the easier way around this would be to use protection against electricity, but with the amount of energy it takes to keep that protection up and running, You'd have to be insane to use it all the time. And on the off chance that you'll get attacked by an electric spell other than the standard one. And on the off chance that you'll get attacked by an electric spell other than the standard one. I don't know what that means. Hardwick says, not that I want to interrupt you or anything, but we should really hurry up if we want to finish the game before Rose is done with the feast preparation. Likely only have about 20 minutes left until the food is done, and everyone except Layla still has at least 5 cards left in their hands. Layla is a girl, right? So why did they write their hands instead of her hands? Okay. As Adric and the others are nearing the end of their card game, Rose comes out of the kitchen carrying 2 trays of food. I go to her side to take one of the trays off her hands. Then I help her set the table at one of the larger picnic tables in the yard. Rose's siblings who are playing in the yard are now also joining us, while Rose and I head towards kitchen to bring the rest of the food outside. We spend the next few hours eating, drinking, celebrating our long-awaited release from the arena. The food that Rose cooked for us was definitely tasty, but it had been a long time since we had the opportunity to taste any of Flower's delicacies. So in the end, our feast was a combination of homemade and magically conceived food. As usual, Haddock was more than happy to provide us with drinks for the occasion, and Rose also made sure to supply us with her special herbs so we could start fresh in the morning without fear of having any hangovers. Since we needed to get up before sunrise the next day, we had to end the celebration early in order to get at least a few hours of sleep. But the hours that we spent at the table were exactly what we needed. After what we've been through in the past few days, next morning while it was still dark outside, we all lined up in the yard to give Rose our farewells. I wish you all the best, Rose, Kate tells Rose after she is done hugging her. I promise that I'll never forget you. I'm guessing this is the point where if you had, Rose as a partner, you would probably interact with her in some way. Or maybe she comes along, who knows. I highly doubt she comes along, but yeah. There you go. I'll show that eventually when I play the Roses playthrough or whatnot. There you go again, making it sound as if this is the last time we'll see each other. Rose says, smiling. You didn't come here to die, did you? As long as you all stay alive, then I'm sure our paths will cross again. Not to mention that you also have those transceivers with you, so you can just call me at any time without worries. It will be as if I were never gone from your group in the first place. I suppose you're right, Kate says. We all wave goodbye to Rose. We set out to find the northern gate. After losing our way a few times and having to ask the locals for directions on numerous occasions, we finally managed to reach our destination just as the sun rises. As we get a good look at the city gates, we see that Melindra was already waiting for us and with her back leaning against a wall. As she waves at us to make sure that we are spotted her, we quicken our pace and we get ready to finally take our first step towards our original goal. After so much sidetracking and so many delays, at long last we can get back to what we came to do, participating in the Magium tournament. Okay, how many chapters are there? I'm guessing there are 10 chapters at least in this book. There you are, Melindra says, once we all get within hearing range of her. Just in time, tell me, are we all ready to begin our adventure? If by adventure you mean waiting in line for an hour, then yes. Darren says as he points towards the city's northern gate. There seems to be at least a few dozen groups of people currently lined up at the main road leading to the northern gate. Some of them are just travelers like us, and most of them appear to be merchants with carts full of... Aren't we exiting the city? Why do we have to do a checkup for exiting the city? That's just weird. Some of them are just travelers like us, but most of them appear to be merchants with carts full of wares that need to be inspected one by one by the guards at the city's exit. That's still weird to me, why the city is like checking on them while they're exiting before they're allowed to pass through the gate. Judging by how long it's taking the guards to inspect each cart, I said that Darren's estimation might actually be a bit optimistic. We're probably going to be stuck here for a lot longer than an hour. Ah yes, Melindra says as she takes a glance towards the very long line of carts in front of her. I forget that the northern gate is primarily used for merchants. Used for the merchant in this city. It would have been so much nicer they actually made more than one gate or the normal northern wall to solve this traffic problem. More gates means more vulnerable areas that need to be protected, Darren says. It would not be a good idea in times such as these when monster attacks are rampant. Let's just line up like the others, and the sun is barely up, so we'll have plenty of time to travel even if we waste another hour in the city. Honestly, I have a better idea, Melinda says. We'll be taking a shortcut. A shortcut, Hardrick says, confused. You mean like an underground tunnel or... Oh, no, no, Melindra says with a smile. I wasn't talking about a tunnel. Is she gonna make us fly over this? Then she snaps a finger and we all begin to slowly get raised into the air, higher and higher, as I feel several currents of air moving around me in a similar fashion to how they used to move when I was using air magic to fly during my battle with skeleton Stillwaters. Right, right.